Talk with the mic. Good. We're going to go ahead and get started. You're going to see that we have a panel of speakers speaking from a wide variety of perspectives. My name is Mary Vogel-Rauscher. I represent SHRM, and I got involved in this because of a phone call from Rick Langfoss and Rich Zeman. And they called me and said, Mary, we've got a problem. And I said, okay, what's the problem? What's going on? He said, effective the end of June, the child care subsidy money is going to be gone because it was part of the ARPA funds. And I said, what? And so they talked to me and they were explaining these things to me. And I would tell you that I read a lot, I watch the news, I had no idea. So then I went to my SHRM board, of which there's several here. Jamie is here, Melissa's here, Hannah's here, Pat's here. And I said, guys, we've got a problem. And I proceeded to share with them what the issues were, what the problem was, and I said, I'd really like to get involved, and I think it's important. We represent employers, we represent businesses. But SHRM's also got a policy, and that says we represent policies, not politics. And so that was important to us, because this today is about policies and procedures, but not politics. It's not Democratic, Republican, Independent. For those that know me, I'm a pretty resourceful person. And I then do this and I start pulling. So then I said, okay, Tracy Probst, guess what? You're going to be on my committee. I said, okay, Bobby, you're going to be on my committee. Okay, Nicole, you're on vacation. You're going to be on my committee when you come back. Okay, Trent Campbell, I need you on this committee too. Because what we were trying to do was represent employers and employer issues. Tracy proceeded to pull in Renee, and she pulled in Ruth, who's going to be here and just speaking later. But what we want to do is give you a big perspective of why this is important. We're going to end with calls to action, because if it doesn't, what's going to happen is you're going to see childcare go up for infants a minimum of $75 a week into what they're already paying, which is $300 a month, which is a lot of money. So we want to do a couple things. One is we want to educate you, bring you up to speed, what the problem is, what the issue is, what we need from you. So first of all, thank you for coming, thank you for caring, because it truly is important to us. We will all be resources. Jamie's been working on making sure we have your emails. Everything we've got, including the call to action we're going to give you, we will send to you electronically. We want you to forward every single piece of material I give you, they give you, we send to every single employer you know. If you're on a board, send it to your board members. If you represent an employer, send it to everyone. Because what happened was, we went into Mark Bourne's listening session last Friday. And he said he has not heard from employers that this is an issue. He has not heard it's a problem. He has not heard from parents that this is an issue unless they're directly tied to daycare. And we said, it's a problem, it's an issue, we need your help. So please, walking away from this and doing nothing will actually hurt us, because we need this to happen. We need you to not only impact your company, but take it further in your organization. So why in the world would SHRM, and for those that don't know what SHRM is, we're a Society for Human Resource Management. Why from an HR group would we say this is important? There's several reasons. These are your speakers that are going to be there today. Myself, Mary Vogel-Rauscher, Ruth Schmidt, Dirk Langfoss, Nicole White, Mayor Bobby, and Tracy. These are the people that are going to be talking this afternoon from a presentation standpoint. Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation did a state survey. And one of the things we're going to be sending you is the result of the survey. And what it talked about was stability for both the parents and the child. From a parent's perspective, the number of people in Dodge County that have called in sick for child care issues was over 70%. Over 70% of your employers can't come to work because they have child care issues, child care challenges. It also affects their mental health, their productivity, their ability to stay on task. But it also affects their kids, guys. Kids need stability, kids need routine. They need steady child care providers that are excellent. They need people and knowing what they're doing. It affects the kids' mental health, it affects the parents' mental health. It affects the stability of both groups. It's not just one group. 51%, again, the data I'm giving you is going to be Dodge County, but there is one on every single county out there. I was looking at the data and saying, this is what La Crosse has. This is what Door County has. 51% talk about their ability to focus and stay on task. Well, as an employer, we get very frustrated when people can't, if you're asking them to do something or a project, and if they can't focus on what they're doing because they're worried about what their kids is happening to them, that's a problem. And particularly for childcare, every single thing that you read about brain development, little kids, it happens in the formative years. The formative years are when they are in childcare. So this 100% affects us from an HR perspective. It says 4/5, I pulled out highlights from Dodge. 4/5 says it affects productivity. 2/3 said childcare is a way to retain employees. Every single employer I know of in Dodge County, 100% is looking for at least one person, and many are looking for several. And some of them are looking for a real lot. So if it's a retention issue, why wouldn't we care that we've got adequate childcare for our employees? Talked about the missed work due to childcare issues, and all of us have openings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the mic over. You're going to hear about what it does to our economy, as well as how it strengthens communities. You'll see me back at the very end to do a wrap-up. But again, I appreciate you coming. I really, really need your help. Thank you, SHRM Board, for letting me do this, and there who's bought your lunch today, because it's important to us, and if you're important to us. And they tell you how to use a mic, or else I can't pick it up.
Okay, I will use a mic. And thank you. Thank you for saying everything I was going to say. It just shows such a depth of knowledge that you've got going on here. So good afternoon. I'm Ruth Schmidt, Executive Director at Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. We are an association that exists to serve the needs of people who work in early care and education and programs that exist that are providing childcare. We work with fully 90% of the childcare programs across the state of Wisconsin, and the same percent in terms of employees of those programs. And we have a staff of about 100 and provide a lot of government services to people who are working in this field. The primary reason that we need a healthy childcare sector is because the core purpose of having childcare is to make sure you can hire employees that have their needs met and can get to work every day. It's as important as a bridge to get over a river or a lake. It's important as the roads that people have to drive on, the plowing system that happens. It's very important. So I'm going to share a little data, some of which you've seen and heard already, and so I'll probably pop through it relatively quickly. So this is just looking at what working parents are experiencing. And I would say, in addition to what you're saying here, in addition to what you already heard, 21% of mothers who are staying home with children right now have turned down jobs because of a lack of childcare. 21%. 1 in 3 working parents with young children would be able to increase their work hours if they had access to care. Birthing and raising a child is often using up 25 to 30% of a household's income. So this is a critical issue. Parents know that childcare is an economic driver and the state needs to do better. We need a state investment into childcare. This you have in a packet in front of you. Most of you do anyway. So this is just showing the decline in childcare over the last 10 years in Wisconsin, all right? And it goes everywhere from a loss of basically 2 or 3% all the way up to a county that has lost 90% of their childcare. We have seen a dramatic decline in childcare over the past 10 years, with Dodge County having lost 39% of its childcare. The childcare deficit, let me go on. This is on the back of one of your pages. In Dodge County, you have lost over the past 10 years 67% of your family childcare. These are small businesses operated out of someone's house. They care for a smaller number of children, but they are critical to rural communities, rural towns. They are absolutely critical, and we have lost huge numbers. You have gone from having 27 down to having 9 of those family child care programs. So this is a complicated slide, so that means I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. But what I do want to pull your attention to is just a couple points on this. Right here, vacant seats statewide due to a lack of staff. Wisconsin currently has 33,000 regulated slots of care that cannot be filled by children because it lacks teachers. Statewide, we lack over 4,100 teachers just for existing slots of care that could be offered immediately. In Dodge County, you've got 481 vacant slots of care right now. You would need 60 more people working in childcare to be able to fill those slots. So why aren't people working in childcare? Well, 83% of them have higher education. 98% of them are women. They earn on average $12 to $13 an hour. They don't have benefits most of us take for granted. And 30 to 40% of them, excuse me, rely on public assistance. That is the arena of people that we are drawing on to come into this field of childcare, because childcare is so woefully underfunded and expensive because you need to be able to pay those staff. This is an affordability calculator. It's in your packet, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time other to say that this is looking at, the blue is the median income for a 4-person household in Dodge County, a mom, a dad, and 2 children. The gray levels here show typical median household expenses, also in Dodge County specifically. And then the gold is the cost of childcare. And then these red balls floating up here is how much money a 4-person household with 2 kids in care have at the end of every month. At the end of every month, if people are even lucky enough to find their kids into care, this is what they are finding. They are ending, if they have their child in a family child care program, $13 to the good. If they have their child in a group program, which you have more of, $562 in the hole, going into debt every month to have their kids in care so they can go work. There's pieces that just doesn't make sense when we think about how complicated this is. So what's the solution? To me and to my association and to the advocates that we work with around the state, the solution needs to be government funding. And this isn't a blue issue, this isn't a red issue, although we sadly are using blue colors here that I just noticed. This is an issue for all parties to pay attention to because it's impacting middle-income families, it's impacting higher-income families, and obviously it impacts our lowest-income family. So the current system, childcare is treated as a private good that parents have to pay for. You had the baby, you pay for the family, or for the cost of care for that child. It's your responsibility. It is not seen as a social responsibility for all of us. And we need to keep some cost responsibility on parents, obviously. We welcome some involvement from business in terms of figuring out creative ways that they can also step into this space and provide some support to childcare. But the bottom line is we need a significant investment of money, state revenue, into childcare. And as you heard already, there is a pot of money right now called Childcare Counts. It ends in July. If it ends in July, there's no funding put into our state budget. We will see programs raising their rates up to 20, 25, 30%. And we will see lots of programs closing. And we will see so many parents priced out of the ability to work that they'll have to make different choices for their family. Right now in Wisconsin, our state invests approximately, it's up to $100 per infant through 3. That's the state revenue we put into funding any and all touches in childcare. It's about $23 million. Once you get up to 4- and 5-year-olds that are eligible for our publicly funded preschool programs, that investment is $7,000 per year. This is per year, $60 to $100 per year, $7,000 per year, and then you get up to K-12, and it's way up at the $17,000 because it includes state and local revenues that are going into that. So in closing, we need to leverage your influence if we're going to get something across the line in terms of what's needed in our state budget. My association and many others that are working on this issue, we are advocating for over $400 million. We aren't asking you to advocate for $400 million. We are simply asking you to advocate to your legislators that we need a state investment into childcare, okay? Whatever the ticket on that, the price tag ends up being through negotiations, we need a public investment of Wisconsin's tax revenue into childcare. Pull out your phones and grab this QR code that's on here. I'll give everybody a second to pull out their phones, and you'll get it emailed to you. But this is absolutely critical. This is a business sign-on letter that we will be sending to Joint Finance and to all members of the legislature. It is not branded WICA. It is not something that involves us doing this. This is just a letter for businesses to sign on to that says, we need a public investment into childcare, and itemizes kind of all the reasons why that's important. So engage your employees, engage your families, engage your business peers in signing on to this letter. And in closing, I just want to do a quick show of hands. I'm going to ask a couple quick questions. Is anybody in this room pregnant and going to be having to deal with childcare? Okay, keep your hands up. Do any of you have employees that are talking about childcare challenges to you in HR? Show of hands. Okay. And do any of you yourselves have challenges with childcare in your own families? Okay. So this is an issue that impacts us all. We all have to help get it over the line in terms of what we do with the state budget this year. We need you to sign this letter. We need you to talk to your legislators and tell them that childcare is an important issue to businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ruth. Really appreciate you coming out on short notice. This was only 3 weeks ago, I believe, this all started. I want to thank each and every one of you of coming out today, again, on short notice and to discuss this important topic. As Mary had alluded to before, is that this all started with a meeting that Rich Zeman and myself had with the former director of the YMCA here in Beaver Dam, Rob Johnson, and over in West Bend. And he had just had a meeting with his representative, and it came up in the lunch meeting that we had with Rob, and he said that that representative and his colleagues were not going to put any money into the budget whatsoever, and that they just, from a ideological standpoint, they wouldn't be doing it, and they didn't see the need in which to do it. And Renee back there, Renee Henning, is shaking her head. By the way, Renee has been a wonderful advocate for childcare. I think Mark Bourne is going to have an office in his office down in Madison because she spends so much time with Mark. But here's where we're at, is that it came down to that what we learned is that the representatives in Madison, they don't want to hear from us childcare providers anymore, because we have been advocating for years and years, and the line that is being used in Madison is that we haven't been hearing from businesses indicating that there is a childcare problem, which boggles my mind. But hence, as we were driving back from West Bend, we had, Rich and I were talking, and we were going, what should we do? And both of us came to mind, it was, we need to call Mary. If I were ever the president of the United States, I would put Mary over the military, because she can organize anything. It's amazing. And then I think the next call was to Tracy, who I hold in high regard as another. I would have you ahead of something, because fantastic. So it just kind of took off, and here we are with this. And so my role today is to essentially present the local impact to childcare. And I stand before you, the YMCA. We are the largest childcare provider in the county. On a daily basis, we serve close to 400 kids every day at the YMCA, ranging from birth to elementary school kids that we serve. And I'm sort of like the canary in the coal mine, because we're in a unique situation, is that because of the size of our organization, we have a lot more ability to take advantage of our size to manage this. What I'm saying today is we are running out of that time. And that's with the YMCA. Now, the independent operators that operate childcare centers, I don't know how they do it, because it is very, very difficult. And I'm just going to present in the next 2 slides that I have here is what is going on. So with the YMCA, our philosophy, we want to make the Y childcare accessible to all. So we have on purpose over the years, we have kept our pricing affordable. We try to be that firewall for inflation, and inflation has really run amok. That rate of $253 per week, that is for infant care. So that's the highest rate that we charge families. I want you to know that rate, we just went up from $220 just in January. Since 2017, we have only gone up $43. $28 was just in January because inflation has been so high. So you can see that at $253, we're definitely the cheapest in the area. I can tell you that in Verona, I was talking to one of the lobbyists for our Alliance of YMCAs in the state of Wisconsin. He is paying $650 a week for his infant. That's insane. So at $253, you're looking at paying out $13,000 for that infant. That is a lot of money for families. What we have done over time is we have absorbed the personnel cost and food cost, all the things that go into childcare. We have absorbed those costs, and we've held off as long as we can, because what we face are those individuals that come to us, and they are struggling badly. And that's why we have been trying to be that firewall for them. And at the same time, if you notice the bullet point where it says, during the time from 2022 to now, our payroll costs have gone up. We have increased the wages by 62% in that time. For the first time in 31 years that I have been working in the YMCA, and by the way, the YMCA is the largest childcare provider in the United States. It's the first time that I'm starting to go, is it even viable? Because the reality is we're going to have to raise it significantly if the funding goes away. You can see that state support. Currently, we receive $153,000 just so that we can keep this reasonable for these families. When that's taken away, we will have no choice but to increase this. And what my big concern is, those families are not going to be able to sustain it. And they're going to be put in just a horrific position. And we are trying our darndest to prevent that from happening. And oh, by the way, our YMCA, with our volunteers, each year, so last year we raised $180,000 in the community. So we go out and we ask money from the community to help support the YMCA. That money goes in large part to support this so that we can make this affordable for those families. The warning signs. Middle-class families are truly bearing the burden of all this. In 2024, 134,000 families, middle-class families, were driven to poverty because of the childcare dilemma. Childcare for the rich or rescued, they're going to be fine. If you're well-to-do, you've got the resources. If you don't have the money, there's money out there in shares funds that they have access. But what about the middle class? And I have on there where you see Wisconsin shares, so that is for those that are low income. Currently, of all the kids that we have, only 6% receive that kind of money. So when our legislators sit there and talk about what they're planning to do you really want to force more people into poverty? Is that what the plan is? Because you're going to do that. That's exactly what's going to happen. And by the way, these are real discussions that are happening with YMCAs all over the country. I've been on national calls. Infant and toddler care, it's not only the YMCAs, it's every child care provider, is that we have been considering, do you take away infant and toddler care because that is the most expensive portion? The ratios are so tight that you actually lose money in those areas. Now, we as a Y, philosophically, and I can say this globally, we're not doing that. But there are plenty of child care providers that have stopped infant and toddler care. So, this is dire. This is really a dire situation, is that hard decisions are going to be made. This is really a workforce decision. And I don't understand the logic of it from the standpoint of, you hear from politicians, everything's workforce and we want this to happen. You're going to force something that's going to cut us at the knees at the workforce. We at the YMCA, we have about 350 employees that work for us. And just like all of you, the challenges of finding people, and then we start doing this, it's going to make it even more difficult. So for now, act now for kids, families, and our future. We ask that if you can notify the legislator, because they're not going to listen to us. They're done with us child care people. They need the businesses. And they have said that specifically. The businesses have to step up. So, child care is collapsing. Businesses demand action. No child care, no workforce. Your bottom line is at stake. All of our bottom lines are at stake. So I beg of everyone here is that if you can help in this, it'll make a difference. We have such a wonderful community here. We have to, and that's what I love about this community. I've been in 9 different communities. This community really rallies, and I'm grateful for each and every one of you. So thank you for the time, and I'm going to turn the time over to Nicole.
Thank you, Dirk. I'm going to be speaking to you today from a little bit different perspective, so I appreciate the perspective from the child care realm. I have a unique perspective being on the board at the YMCA for 10 years, so I have heard many of these struggles, but it's become much more prevalent in the last couple of years since I've been off the board. I am the HR director for the Beaver Dam Unified School District, so I come to you as one of the largest employers in our region, speaking to you about what our needs are for our school district to maintain afloat and to continue to educate kids from infancy all the way up through 12th grade. So with that in mind, we did do a survey of our staff a couple of years ago, and our staff filled it out for those that were parents or going to become parents soon as to what their needs were. So I'll be introducing a couple people in the room then as you hear a little bit more of our story. So with that survey, 48.2% stated that finding or affording quality childcare was their greatest concern. It's a pretty big deal when half of your staff is struggling to find high-quality, affordable childcare. So they already thought in 2022 that they weren't going to be able to make ends meet with their childcare resources. 24% had family caring for their children so that they could be at work. That's significant. That's 1 out of every 4 of our staff members. 77% answered yes or maybe to using childcare if it was provided on site for an affordable cost. We're like, wow, okay. 77% thought on site would be great for them because working in a school district, the hours are kind of unique, right? It's not shift work. It's when the students are in session. That's when we need our staff to be in session as well. So they needed care for that time. They probably don't need care over the summer, maybe not over spring break or Christmas break. So we've been very fortunate that we've had some flexible childcare providers in our community that have been able to work around that. The next two statistics from that survey are mind-blowing. 84% answered yes or maybe to being more likely to accept a position in our district or anywhere else if childcare was made available. So that was pretty big. People knew people that were not going to come and work for us because we didn't have anything to offer, where there are other local school districts who are offering childcare on site that were relatively close or maybe in a better market for them. So 30% stated that they personally knew people who could not even consider working at BDUSD because we didn't have the childcare resources available to them in town. And through my work with the Y, what I've always known, and I used to be the 4K coordinator as well for BDUSD for Kids here in town. We have a community partnership with our local childcares. Ashley Jansma now holds that role here. She's also the principal at Wilson, so you'll hear a little bit more about her in a minute. Renee Henning is the owner and operator at Community Care, preschool and childcare, and as you met Dirk Langfoss, those are two of our biggest 4K sections in the community as well, and community childcare providers. So meeting with them, we had a lot of conversations. We talked about the survey data. We thought, what can we do to make things better for our staff? We need teachers, right? There's a teacher shortage out there. There's a staff shortage for anybody who's working in education or childcare, statewide and nationwide. So we talked through some of those ideas, and we had already made the very difficult decision to close one of our elementary schools, which is Wilson Elementary. This is its last year. I hope that that's a celebration of good things to come here in the community. So thank you. So Wilson will be sunsetting the end of this school year, but this year we were able to have Renee start leasing part of the building for her infants, for her child care program. And so we've developed a partnership with Community Care to also offer child care to our staff. So our staff are able to not only utilize that service, but utilize it on site for some of them, and it's right within the district boundary. It works out great for our staff. And she's got quite a few of our teachers' staff, our teachers and staff have children in her care. So it's been a great partnership. Dirk and his team have been able to provide after school and wrap care for anyone that's been in our 4K or after school programs so that our staff can, and even our parents for our students can work later hours for each and every one of you. They don't have to run and pick up right when school lets out. So we're very appreciative of those partnerships. To kind of reiterate a little bit about what Dirk said, we have to really kind of keep that future in mind. If there's no care for the children, then those parents aren't able to go to work. We're not able to have the public education that we have here in town to be quite as good. I mean, we're great, I think, right now. So public education is huge, so we want to keep those quality people in our classrooms at the child care age and the K-12 age. So workforce as a whole, we've been very fortunate, but it is definitely a need. Renee, how many people do you think you have from Beaver Dam Unified School District overall? Okay, so she's got a waiting list. Dirk, you've probably had a waiting list for years as well. Yep, I looked yesterday on both of your websites. I can't even find the child care rates because they're probably not published because they don't have openings. So, and I know, Ruth, you had mentioned, too, there's so many more opportunities to have additional children in these centers, but if they can't find the staff who will also need their own child care, then they're not able to do that. So it's really cyclical, and it's really important to make sure that you're able to staff your workplaces, we're able to staff ours. It's really a huge community investment. So I'm not saying that I have any of the answers whatsoever, but I do know how important childcare is to our community and how we need to continue to grow in that avenue. We have additional businesses coming to town here in the very near future, and we need to be able to provide not adequate, but amazing childcare experiences for those families that will be working and employed for those businesses, or they're not going to move here. They're going to move to Sun Prairie or Verona or wherever else that they're able to get those experiences for their families. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can and we're opening up every idea that we have and looking under every rock and finding what solutions we might have for funding and looking to see what we can do to help support the childcare needs here in the community. So thank you for your time. Mayor Mark will be speaking next.
Thank you, Nicole. Hi, I'm Bobby Mark. I'm the mayor of Beaver Dam. And our city first began discussing the childcare issue about 4 years ago under then Mayor Becky Gluen. And we were looking at it both as leaders in our community, but also as a large employer in our community. We are continually trying to find ways to attract and retain employees for the city. So this issue was important on both those accounts. Becky knew the importance of childcare for the health and well-being of our entire community and including employers. And so she brought this issue to the Beaver Dam Common Council, of which I was a member and Jack was a member back in 2022. And the Common Council, after significant discussion, committed $100,000 of ARPA funds to help come up with a cooperative childcare solution. And that's what Nicole was talking about between our city funds and the school district and community care. We were able to help convert Wilson School, elementary school, into a infant through pre-4 or 4K facility. So we're proud of that. We consider that a feather in our cap. However, there's still more work to be done. We've been fortunate to attract several large new employers to Beaver Dam. One example is Generac. We were just there on Monday for a tour of their about-to-open plant. I think they're projecting to cut the ribbon in the first week in May. Maybe you've seen it. It's on the north side of Highway 151. Big new, they make commercial generators. And last Monday, while we were touring the facility, I had a chat with their HR director, and they've already hired 88 new employees, and they're looking to bring that number up to 100 within the next couple of weeks. Most of these employees live in Dodge County, and many of them will need childcare. This company also has told us that they have plans to expand at least once, if not twice, in the near future. And that will depend in part on their ability to hire more workers. And those workers will need childcare. So it's all connected. For decades, cities have understood that to retain established businesses and to draw in new businesses, that we have to promote economic development by investing in things that employers need, things like water and sewer and streets. We build business parks and financial districts. Cities are used to doing that. But now as we move forward, cities are having to face also looking at childcare as one of those needs that employers are going to need if they want to be a part of economic development in our community. Now, of course, the issue is that city budgets, like everybody else's budgets, are somewhat limited. That as much as cities want to help with the childcare issue, the amount of support they can provide is fairly limited. And that's why we have to turn to the state. That state funding is the only long-term sustainable answer to the childcare issue. So I'm going to leave you with a statement. Our Economic Development Director, Trent Campbell, there was one BDUSD. He couldn't be here today, but he wanted to leave you with this. Affordable and accessible childcare is becoming increasingly important for Beaver Dam businesses. The need for an expanded workforce is expressed regularly by area companies. Childcare investments will be essential in the community's efforts to combat employee shortages. Thank you. And I'll hand it over to Tracy.
So the one thing I want you to take away from this slide is business voices matter the most. So Dirk, definitely Renee, we've been sitting in forums and discussions about childcare for, gosh, many, many years. And our politicians, they don't care about even the chamber's perspective, partly because, and I want to fill you in, WMC is our state agency for chambers, Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. And their position on this is that they need to push through legislation where employers will get tax credits for funding childcare for their employees. And that is the position that they have, and they are not changing that position. So in talking with other chambers, this really has to be a grassroots efforts here in local communities, because we don't have the business voice talking on our behalf. They're not going to take a stance for funding. So our chamber board met this morning, and we talked about it again. And our position as a chamber is, you know, you can't just stop this without having a crash. You know, we need a stopgap position here, in the sense that how are we going to transition this so as Dirk will say, childcare is stabilized. There is a solution, as Ruth pointed out. It's a combination of government, parent, it's private, public, but you just can't pull the rug under this funding and not expect it to not close childcare, to not lose employees. So Mark Bourne said it, he's not listening to us. He is not hearing from employers. So it has to come from you. And so, again, business voices matter the most. You know, an abrupt end to this is going to have serious consequences. So thank you for inviting me and letting me say those few words. Thank you, Mary, for organizing this on short notice. And if you can share this word to anyone you know, parents, write on behalf. If you have childcare, write as a parent, write as a business. Have your CEOs and write the letter too. As many signatures that we can have signing on Ruth's letter, but direct letters are going to have the most impact. So, thank you.
You know, as much as they're saying give Mary credit, no. These two were my partners in crime, and we were trading emails as late as 10 o'clock last night working on the PowerPoint. Truly, this is less than a 3-week project that's come to our attention. And the fact that we were able to pull it together and get it to what it is, and then add to the committee and add to the presenters, please, please, please don't think somebody else is going to do it. I called SHRM and I said, okay, State SHRM, I need some things from you, and this is what I'm going to do with the State SHRM. And I talked to our legislative director, and when we had a conversation on Sunday, we truly have been putting in just a ton to try and pull this together. And he said, oh, the Green Bay Chamber tried and it went nowhere. And I'm like, how can you say it's going nowhere? It's got to go somewhere, guys. And like Tracy said, it's got to be, yes, go to Ruth's letter and hit the scan, but we need the personalized letters going out. And guys, we're going to make it easy for you. Again, I need your email. We're going to send you a canned letter that you can tweak and adjust. We want this done, and we want more than just the people sitting in this room to do it. If you work for a company and there's 18 managers, send it to 18 of them. Please explain to them why this is important, because it is. So we need to feed it that way. I'm working with the other chapters of SHRM in the state. I'm working with the legislative director. They said they will send out, you know, anything that I send them. So we're going to send this PowerPoint. We're going to send the data. We're going to send the research. We're going to send everything. We're going to try and make it as easy for you as we can. But I'm going to ask you, please don't let us down. Please do this, because if you say I'm too busy, it'll take you 5 minutes, guys, with the materials we're giving you. 5, you know, but if everybody's too busy, it won't get done. There's no way it can get done. And we're one county, and I've got to make sure we're impacting every single county in the state. And when Mark said, we're not hearing from employers, that to me, I take as a challenge. And I'm like, okay, we got this. We got this. You know, we can 100% make this impact. So what I want to do is open up for questions for anybody on the panel, because I probably don't have the answers. Is there any questions anybody's got of anybody that's here? Is there anything any of the presenters want to do? By tomorrow at this time, you will have gotten all the emails from us in terms of that. We'll We are very lucky, and I want to thank the Daily Citizen for being here, Terry, and I want to thank WBEV-XRO for being here. They are covering this. Channel 15 is meeting me later today. They're going to cover this. Hopefully we'll be on the news tonight. We've tried several different other outlets because somewhere it's got to get heard that we need your help. We need employers to respond, and employers can be anybody from the county. You know, they're an employer too, so don't say, oh, I work for a not-for-profit, or I work for, you know, this or that person. We need everybody in this room to impact 20 other people and have that 20 people impact more, because it will truly affect us and it will truly, truly hurt us. I need to thank, again, the Dodge County SHRM board for putting up with this, but particularly the two that really worked with me on this were Tracy and Dirk. They have been wonderful, and it has really pulled together nicely. The entire committee deserves a thank you. Thank you to the other speakers. Thank you to Bobby. Thank you to Nicole. Thank you to Ruth that have been here. Thank you to Renee. But Dirk, Tracy, and I have been, it's taken up a little bit of my time. So anything at all we can answer for you? Otherwise, we appreciate you being here. Just by being here, you showed us you cared. You want to be involved. You want to at least know what the issues are and the problems. Expect a ton of emails from me. If you do not get an email from Dodge SHRM, I work for Richards Insurance. Call me there, and I would be happy to make sure. Call either of these two. They will make sure I get your information. And you can, anything we're sending you, feel welcome to share, from the PowerPoints to the letters to the research material that we've got. Feel free to forward any of it. Anybody, any questions at all? Go ahead.
If I were to bring this to our senior leadership, we have locations in 8 different counties. Is there a good site or good place to direct our leadership to learn more information about the cost of daycare? Well, I hear that it keeps going up, but for a lot of our leadership, and me personally, I don't have small children, so it's harder for me to be able to relate. And for those of you that don't know, I work at a bank, and they're going to want to run the numbers.
I know that we've got data on how you're impacted from the Watertown Community Health Foundation. It'll cite the counties. Dirk, I'm going to defer this other part to you. You know if there's any data? Or Ruth or Renee?
Yeah, we have a packet of a lot of information, but Ruth also, I think, she has all that.
Thank you.
I'll go to Ruth again.
For any county with all of the cost information, and we can pull, these are what we've been giving to legislators that we've been meeting with. We can pull this for any of your counties specifically, and it will then give you the cost of care included in that affordability slide. We have that for all of the counties. So if that's what if that could be useful, and my contact information is in the packet, that you'll be getting. Yeah, I'm happy to connect you with our policy director who can help with all of that.
I know, it's just going to say, Mary, I warned you. Other questions? Yep.
So I'm kind of a don't get me started person on this topic, so, but I will not do that. But I do want to say there are really true indicators right now in data that exist that show what happens when this money goes away. So in the end of 2023, our program, the Childcare Counts program we talked about, that funds all of the childcare providers in here, the Y helps fund them, was cut in half. During that next time period, during the next year, we saw across the state the cost of care go up 14%. And additionally, the value of our subsidy dollars, so that availability to purchase care, dropped 25%. So low-income people get the doors closed on what they can purchase, and private pay families saw the cost of care go up 14%. When it drops fully to zero money going into this starting July 1, I think it's going to be close to catastrophic for this industry. Yeah.
And remember what Dirk said? Dirk said this affects the middle class. This is something that's going to affect the majority of your employees because it's not going to affect the either ends of the spectrum, it's the middle. We will also, I'll be around we'll be the last ones to leave today. If you want to talk one-on-one and aren't comfortable talking in a group, please feel free to stay. Please feel free to ask us any questions or anything like that. And again, please make sure you see Jamie, current president of Dodge SHRM, to give her your address if you don't have it, so that we can make sure we get you the literature that you need. Any other questions at all? Go ahead, Renee. Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Nope. Nope. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Just logistics question. So
Sure.
slides that were not available on tables today, will those be?
I will send this whole deck. I'll overload your emails if anything, and just check spam if you, again. And guys, I am, like Derek said, I'm the person who's we'll get this done, and who's going to do it. If you don't have it by noon tomorrow, you need to be calling me because I will make sure it is in your in baskets by then because I'm a little bit anal that way. Is there anything else that we can answer? Otherwise, thank you for coming. Thank you for caring, and please, please help us.